Hey guys, welcome to Project Metal Music's YouTube channel with your host Del Young, and we are here with the brilliant AnnimaX. So welcome AnnimaX.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So AnnimaX, could you introduce yourself and what you do within the band?
I pretty much am the band. My name's Joel Weishart, um, and I'm a one-man solo project with the band AnnimaX. And also a former bass player of my most prestigious previous project was one band that went by two names, Nightshade and Q5. Um,
Cool, cool. So let's, yeah,
yeah, and when I was in Nightshade Q5, I was only the bass player. Um, and in about 2008, I had left that band, and I decided to put together a solo project where basically I'm doing all the guitars, all the drums, all the bass, all the vocals, all by myself, all laid down on a multi-track recorder.
yeah, cool. Joel, let's type in some questions and yeah. So as a kid, what were you listening to?
Well, I grew up in basically in the 70s and 80s. So I started off with a lot of I was able to hear a lot of the different classic bands, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, Aerosmith. Um,
Yeah, cool. 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 I think we lost.
I had three older brothers, and we had stereo in the house, and so I got to grow up listening to whatever they wanted to listen to and all they wanted to bring. So I had a lot of that influence. So, and then going
Cool.
into the 80s, it was a continuation of the same. A lot of the, like the new wave of British heavy metal bands, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and a lot of bands that kind of made a name for themselves. 70s, Ozzy, their own solo project. So, um,
Cool. I think we've lost Joel with his signal. Bear with us, guys. Bear with us. Got some tech issues here, so bear with us. Oh, yeah. Sorry about this, guys. It looks like he's lost his signal. So bear with us, guys. Let's see if we can get him back. So bear with us. So yeah, if you wanted to check out Joel and the band AnnimaX, all the links are in the description there. To the Facebook page, Instagram, and a few other places. So yeah, go check them out. He's back. He's back. Right, there with us. You're back.
sorry, lost internet connection here.
Yeah.
How much?
Yeah,
How far did I get?
yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess I just,
So yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how
Yes.
much of that you caught, but yeah, a lot
Uh,
of the bands I did in the 70s and 80s.
yeah. Cool. So, um, who actually got you into sort of like listening to music? Was it your parents or your siblings, or was it
Siblings.
sort of like your siblings? Mhm.
Yeah, my dad
Yeah.
liked both types of music, country and western, and my mother was a secretary for a church. So neither of the two of them were real fond of my choice in music, but yeah, so a lot of it came from my older brothers. We had
Yeah.
one stereo in the house, and so it was whatever vinyl albums they brought home. I remember some of the first ones: Deep Purple, Machine Head, Black Sabbath, Paranoid, Aerosmith, Toys in the Attic. Were some of the first ones I remember my older brothers bringing home, and so that was a lot of what I was raised on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there who sort of like took influence from their older siblings.
Yep. Yeah, I think, like I
Yeah,
said, moving into the '80s, a lot of those bands took influence from the same bands in the '70s, like the Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, bands like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, who actually, out of all the bands that you've sort of like listened to over the years, who who was your main influence to say that's what I want to do? I want to become a musician.
Yeah, I think one of the first ones would have been Deep Purple. When I was in the '70s, I just remember back in my cassette tape days, I used to have 28 Deep Purple cassette tapes, including their live albums. I bought their compilation albums, even though I had each one of the songs on the compilation on one of the other albums. If it said Deep Purple, I had to own it. So you can say I was a little bit obsessed with them.
Yeah,
And then I think in the '80s, because Deep Purple had kind of disappeared there for a while, I seem to remember Iron Maiden seemed to be a really big influence of mine. One of the big things with Iron Maiden was that not only was the music an influence, but also watching that Live After Death video, watching Steve Harris on stage was a huge influence to my stage presence as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was going to say that Steve Harris and Iron Maiden has, especially with the Life After Death video, he influenced a lot of people not only his stage presence but his bass playing as well.
Yeah, I wish I could have seen that live. I didn't, but I do remember they used to have that movie playing at a local movie theater. So it was the closest you could come to seeing it like on the big screen with the big, huge theater sound system was like, I guess, the second best you could come to it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did finally see Iron Maiden live, but it wasn't until their seventh tour of a seventh tour. So
yeah, yeah. Yeah, excuse me. We've got a question from my head moderator, Lisa Boo. She asks, what is your favourite song to play, either your own or from another artist?
my favorite song for what? Sorry.
Your favourite song to play.
My, my favorite song to hear?
Play to play
Oh, play
live.
live. Play live.
Yeah,
Oh, so favorite song to play live. I'd have to go back to the days when I played live. One of the things with AnnimaX, yeah, I had some unfortunate circumstances that arose to where now I'm kind of stuck at home. One guy, so I can play all the instruments, but I can't play them at the same time, so I can't do live shows. But back when I was with Nightshade and Q5, a couple of songs that came to mind there's a Nightshade song called The Quest, was one of my favorite ones. It's one of those epic 9-minute long numbers. And also I used to really get into doing a Q5 Missing in Action, because we always used to do Q5 songs on our set as well. And Missing in Action is a lot of fun to play on stage.
yeah, yeah. Cool. Is there any other songs, whether it be from say Iron Maiden, do you like playing?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Uh, is there sort of like another song from say Iron Maiden or Deep Purple that you like playing?
Oh geez. Kind of hard to pick one because it's like I learned so many of them. especially because those were the bands. I bought my very first bass guitar in 1981, and so those were the bands I started learning songs from. I would say my favorite Deep Purple song to play probably would have been Highway Star. Love that song because I love all Deep Purple, but in particular the Mark II lineup with Ian Gillan, Roger Glover, and also for Iron Maiden, geez, maybe Aces High comes to mind as one of my favorite ones. Flight of Icarus, they had a bunch of them because Steve Harris is such an amazing bass player. A lot of his bass lines are fun to play.
Cool. Thank you, Elizabeth, for that. Right. Well, you've mentioned a couple of bands there. Was there any other bands that you were in before you started AnnimaX?
A number of them. I always mention Nightshade Q5 because that was the most prestigious previous band I was in. Before that, I was in a band called Excalibur that wasn't quite as famous, but was had been playing the same type of clubs in the Seattle area at the time. Been on the radio stations there and such. Prior to that, I had actually spent 6 years in the United States Navy. That's where I was in the late 80s. And I was actually in bands on board the USS Nimitz, where we had actually done shows on the flight deck of the ship in the middle of the Indian Ocean. So not very many bands that could add the middle of the Indian Ocean to the list of venues that they've played. But
yeah, cool.
I think one of the other things too is up until that point, when I was all the way up through my Navy years, I was in a lot of different cover bands. When I got out of the Navy, that was when I kind of decided, I'm not going to get anywhere playing somebody else's music, and so I had decided to start going with just bands that did their own music after that.
Cool.
I was in a couple of short projects that just might have been together for like a month or two before they fell apart and didn't do much to mention. So
So going back to playing on the when you were in the Navy, that couple of gigs in the middle of the Indian Ocean must have been a surreal experience.
Yeah, I think the biggest, most surreal experience I had was we did Nightshade Q5 got to open for a number of major acts during my tenure. The only one we did was we opened for Quiet Riot once, and we were actually playing. This is in '94. A club called Jimmy Z's in Everett, Washington, and we'd played that club before and had plenty of people there. But this time the place was literally just packed like sardines. Really great crowd to play in front of. So the one of the only time we ever had to set up around somebody else's drum kit. I remember that about it. So
yeah.
I remember also being kind of blown away by how tall Kevin Dubrow was. I had no idea. It's like, you see pictures of him with the band, he looks normal. Saw him on stage, he's like 6'4". I'm like 6'1", and I'm looking at him thinking, wow, he's
yeah.
really tall.
God, yeah. He must have met a few people who were thinking.
Yeah, it's one of the other things that happened too. That I just remembered. Actually, this came up a lot recently.
Oh, we lost him again. The internet's just gone out. So bear with us, guys. See if we can get him back. Like I said, guys, like I said earlier, if you want to check out AnnimaX, all the links are down in the description. And go like and subscribe to these socials, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, stuff like that. So go check them out. And and if you can, there's a pin coming at the top of the screen now with my link tree. You will find all the socials like X, Twitter, Instagram, website, There's an email there if you want to get in contact with me, and also there's PayPal there. So if you can, please donate to the website, to the PayPal, and yeah. So yeah, and yeah, later on at 9 p.m. UK time, myself and Lisa will be doing the Saturday night podcast, number 31. So stay tuned for that, which is coming up in around about just over an hour's time. So yeah, let's see if we can get Joel back. He's been having problems with his internet at the minute, so yeah. Bear with us. Bear with me. See if we can get him back. Bear with me. Yeah. Oh, and coming up, we'll go into more detail when myself and Lisa will do the Saturday night podcast. But tell you what's coming up on the over the next week or so. We got Rick Allen on the 11th, Major Distortion on the 13th, and we've got Radio Aftermath coming up on the 14th. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and yeah, just that's what's coming up, and I'm hoping to get a couple more bands on. So stay tuned for that. So as we are waiting for Joe to come back, yeah, like I said, please go to check out AnnimaX on the socials. They are an amazing band. So yeah, just waiting for like I said, just yeah, and yeah, like, share, and comment, like Lisa Boo said there. So yeah, it does help the channel in a big way. It does help. Does help. Does help the channel in a big way. So bear with me. Just quickly messaging AnnimaX. Oh, here we go. He's back. So yeah, sorry. You did it again.
So what was it? What question were we on? I'm sorry.
You was saying you go to when you opened up for Quiet Riot.
Oh yeah, opening for Quiet Riot. And yeah, that was a huge crowd to play in front of. It was a lot of fun. We did a great show. They did a great show. In fact, they liked us so much that at one point in time they had offered us a little mini tour of playing shows on the West Coast. We unfortunately had to turn it down because one of the shows conflicted with my wedding day. But yeah, but they were impressed with us, so that's great. And one of the other interesting things that happened during my time in the band was Great White. This came to light recently with the passing of Jack Russell. But they had actually done a cover of a Q5 song, Ain't No Way to Treat a Lady. During '96, it's on their Let It Roll album. It's actually a cover of a song from Q5 Steal the Light in '84. So
cool.
Kind of a tribute to how big of a song how big of an album Steal the Light was. A lot of people, it seems like there's people I talk to who you tell them that you're in Q5 and they hear the album Steal the Light, and they treat you like a celebrity, and other people like, what are you talking about? So a lot of people have heard of them, a lot of them haven't. They seem to have been big over in Europe, from what I understand too.
Yeah, they were. So what have you been up to, especially over in the last couple of years?
Well, what happened when I left Nightshade? I had unfortunate circumstances that arose that precluded me from touring. And so I left the band so they could find someone who could. In fact, the guy who replaced me was Evan Sheely, who was actually the original bass player of Q5. And I was friends with him too. So it was really cool. You know, you hear a lot of bands breaking up over squabbling over artistic differences or money or something like that. So it's really cool to be able to leave the band on good terms. And I'm still good friends with those guys to this day. And for a while there, I thought that was it. I thought I was done. And at one point in time, I'd even sold off all of my gear and I was going to be done. Got the itch to play back, bought all the gear back. And rather than focusing on what I can't do, I started focusing on what I can. I can still make music. Get a multi-track recorder, and I go through and record the drums, go back to record the bass, go back to add the guitar, go back to add the vocals. So by the time it's done, it sounds like a whole band, but it's really just me doing the whole thing. Then, you know, it's like I get worldwide distribution through CD Baby, which is really helpful. Back in the day, you used to have to try to negotiate deals with a record label to get in rotation on MTV or VH1. Today, slap something up on YouTube and you're good to go, right? And also getting exposure through a lot. There's been a lot of turns out radio stations that have been really supportive of it. So
Is that mainly through the internet radio stations, or just like the regular FM stations, or both?
that was actually a big surprise to me. When I was getting into this, I originally thought that I knew that commercial stations weren't going to touch it, but I thought if there were, I was thinking it was going to be terrestrial based FM stations. I was wrong. I have been through a couple of those. Thank you, KFOK and KLX and WAKT. That I have been on a few of those, but predominantly, like I've been on dozens and dozens of internet-based radio stations all over the world. So, and a lot of those are thanks to the first one I found was one called Metal Devastation Radio. In particular, there's a DJ there named Vicky Grandy, who lives in Winnipeg, Canada. Oh, okay, you know Vicky, great.
Yeah,
she was the first one I met. And she started playing my stuff on every show. She introduced me to all the other DJs there. So now my stuff's being played all the time there. But then one of the DJs I met through them was Doc Rock from Doc Rock's Metal Shop 101. And he and I hit it off because we're roughly the same age, and so we grew up with all the same influences and such. And he's on like 50 different radio stations in like 8 different countries and everything. So being on his show was like really, really helpful. And then through Doc Rock, I started meeting some of the people at some of these other radio stations as well, like Hot Headed Radio that started up recently. Dark Paradise Radio has been really helpful as well. Long Island Nightlight has, they call them LINL, Lionel Radio. Those 3 in particular have been like really helpful. So
cool. So have you sort of like been writing and recording new music, especially over the last couple of months?
Writing and recording music is it's kind of a tricky thing to talk about with my first album, Asphalt Assault. Asphalt Assault is all metal, but it's kind of subgenre eclectic. It's kind of a little all over the place. And part of the reason was because a lot of the material was also written at different points in time. Some of the songs were written, like probably the oldest song on there's a song called Waiting for the Reaper, which was about somebody I broke up with back in 1987. It took me until 2023 to get the song on an album. So while to the rest of the world, it's a brand new song, to me, it's 36 years old. So I'd say if some of the music sounds a little 80s, it's because it is. It was written back then. And then I've got some of the songs I've written more recently, where I've got, became a better musician, became a better songwriter. And so a lot of that influence is all kind of all over the place. As far as having any sort of like message behind my music, For the most part, I'm just kind of a storyteller. I tell the stories of my life, only I put it to, rhyme and meter and rhythm and music, and I throw it to the masses and say, does anybody else feel the same way? And the ones that come back and respond become my fans. So I like doing it that way too. It's like I'm not out there trying to make the next hit. I'm not out there trying to think, what song do I think I could write that Justin Timberlake would sound great, performing or something like that. I like doing it this way because it's more genuine. I'm just being me. I'm sharing that with the fans, and the fans are sharing it back with me. It's very cool.
Yeah, yeah. Is there any sort of like new material coming out?
Yeah. A lot of the first album was actually getting older stuff out of my system. Like I said, some of these songs are like 30 years old. So, of course, this next album will be stuff that's been written more recently, and it's a little bit more modern. Some of my more modern influences, we talked about what I grew up with as a little kid. More recently, I got into more bands like Shadows Fall, Lamb of God, Avenged Sevenfold. So you start to see Pantera, really big influence from Dimebag, because I'd read a whole book full of his tutorials that he did that he left us. Thank God for that. Not only was he a great player, but he was also a phenomenal teacher. So thank God he left us that. And you start to see a little bit more of that harder, heavier influence starting to creep into my more modern stuff.
Cool.
Right now I'm working on, I've got a whole bunch of tracks for a second album, kind of half built. So optimistically, that would be coming somewhere maybe late next year, by the time I get all the different pieces put in place for it. And I do have a couple of singles kind of on the shelf that I'm going to be releasing in between, kind of like an appetizer between meals, so to speak.
Yeah, I was going to ask, have you got anything ready to be released, whether it be single or like little EP?
Well, my next one will probably be a full length album. After that, we'll see where we go from there, because one of the strategies I've seen other bands do is just basically starting to release everything as a single. I've seen a lot of bands doing that now. When you think about it, when you think about how the music industry and how the media has progressed through the years, a lot of the reason albums exist was you're distributing a vinyl LP, and this is how many songs we can fit on an LP. Move forward to the CD, this is how many songs we can fit on a CD. With the advent of streaming, there's nothing holding you back from just releasing one song at a time now. So a lot of bands are switching to that type of strategy. I haven't made up my mind as to whether after this next album I'm going to switch to that strategy or not, but I'm leaving that as a possibility. I might start doing it that way.
Yeah, I was going to say over the last coming up to 4 years now, there's a lot of bands have been every 6 to 8 weeks to release a song. They do that for about about 5 to 6 times across the year and release an EP. That way, do it that way, and then do the process again. It sort of like keeps people's interest within the band or within the musician.
Now, see, I've actually seen some of these bands too that don't even do the EP. I've seen there's a few of them that are just everything they release is a single, and like I said, there's nothing to stop you from doing it that way. But
yeah, true.
it's just the old school musician in me that still kind of prefers the album format.
Yeah. There's a lot of people like that that rather put out either an EP or not or full album.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking sort of like an album, or is there any sort of like plans on putting your music on vinyl?
That's all an issue of cost. I would put everything on vinyl if I could afford to put things on vinyl. But a lot of times I'm looking at my very limited budget and I'm kind of like forced to decide between vinyl and CD. On Asphalt Assault, I chose CD. So CDs are still available on my Bandcamp site. Turns out that that's the only place to buy the CD. When I originally signed up, my distributors ironically named CD Baby.
Oh, we lost him again. Don't worry, we'll try and get him back again. So bear with us. Yeah, if you want to, where Lisa Boo has been posting out the links to AnnimaX, AnnimaX links to their website, YouTube, Instagram, places like that. So yeah, go check them out. They're absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and if you want to support this channel, hit the subscribe, like, share, comment, and all that good jazz. So, and there's also there's a link tree to Project Metal with all the Instagram, the website, etc., etc., etc. So, yeah, like I said, if you want to go to AnnimaX's website, it's on screen there and it's in the chat there. So, yeah. We'll wait for a few minutes before we get for AnnimaX to come back, for Joel to come back. So bear with us. Yeah, and yeah, he's an amazing musician. So yeah, go check him out. Go check him out. There's AnnimaX YouTube channel. And Twitter. So, yeah, go check them out. As we try and battle through with these tech issues, so yeah, and yeah, if you like if you like what you see, hit the subscribe, like, share, comment, all that good jazz. It does help the channel in a big way. And oh, Andy's back. Yeah, yeah. Welcome back.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with the internet connection here today. Anyway, where was I? Bandcamp, I think. I was in Bandcamp.
Yeah, Bandcamp.
One of the things I wanted to mention before I go any further, I'm surprised I got this far in the interview, didn't mention this, with the band AnnimaX. It's with two N's, AnnimaX.com. If you look up AnnimaX with one N, it's some Roblox thing.
Yeah.
So definitely want to get the AnnimaX with two N's. But go to, just search for AnnimaX on Bandcamp. It's the only place to get the physical CD. Yeah, because what I was saying when the phone cut off there, the distributor I had was CD Baby, ironically enough, and they've been selling CDs for a couple of decades. Literally 2 weeks before Asphalt Assault was released, they made this big announcement: we're shutting down CD distribution, going strictly digital. Yeah, so prior to that, you could have found it on like Amazon.com or something like that, but that all got shut down like right before the album got released. So now the only place to get the physical CD is through my Bandcamp site. Although really cool, there's an option there when you check out whether you want it shrink wrapped or autographed. I autograph every copy, but I have to take the shrink wrap off to do it. So that's available to you.
Yeah.
And it's, again, it's an issue of cost, because it's like, how can I afford to do both a CD and a vinyl release? That's kind of what it comes down to. When I get to the point where I'm ready to release the next one, I've seen higher sales on vinyl, so I might switch to vinyl next time around.
Cool. Yeah, cool. So, is there any sort of like plans on doing more merchandise for AnnimaX?
Yeah. Actually, if you go to AnnimaX.com, AnnimaX.com is my main website, and it's kind of like a central hub to everything. It has links to all my social media sites, all the streaming sites, and there's a separate tab for my merch site. I have a print on demand merch vendor that makes the t-shirts and such. So that's where to find all of that stuff at.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, go check out AnnimaX's website. All the links are there for if you want merchandise or CDs or whatever your taste is. So, um, sort of like my next question will be, if you sort out get other musicians to come in and play your music, would you sort of like at some point with all the stars aligned, planets aligned, and you got the financial backing, would you go out touring again?
Yeah, it would have, yeah, it would be a lot of stars that would have to align in order for that to happen. Uh, but yeah, it's something that I would be open to as long as the appropriate arrangements could be made. Yeah, I love playing live. I miss playing live. It's one of the things I think I miss because when I went into AnnimaX, it was kind of under this business model of I'm doing this whole online only band. And one of the things that you miss from that experience is finding out whether people actually really like your music. When you play live, you can tell just by the audience response, by how loud they cheer and everything, whether which songs are better than others and such. Hard to decipher that online. Um, you have to remind people to click the like button, to subscribe, things like that. Um, and that's how you tell people. That's how you applaud online. Is like, comment, share with your friends, things like that, and just trying to encourage people to do that. There's a few of the sites, Bandcamp and YouTube, where a lot of the streaming sites and stuff give you statistics. Those two in particular will tell you, how much of your video they watched or how much of the song they streamed. And I think that was another thing that was a big surprise to me too, is how few people actually listen to songs all the way through. How many people listen to albums all the way through? Like, what's the last album you listened to from start to finish? I noticed that, like, sometimes I'll check my streaming statistics and find out that I got, one stream on track number 2, one on 5, and one on 8. A lot more of people just kind of jumping through the album and not listening to them. I spent probably far too much time worrying about track order because I was worried about the album having a nice flow to it, only to find out that a lot of people just don't even listen to albums start to finish.
I've noticed that when I do interviews or do other stuff, sort of like skip different parts of the either interview or the podcast or other stuff I've done, and it does sometimes it can be disheartening when it's just like skip from one track to another, one part of the video to another. So
now, same thing with the songs. Yeah. I'm a little worried about it because there's like one of the tracks that's coming up on the next album. I won't give too many details about it. Don't want to spoil the story, but it's one of my favorite AnnimaX songs, and it's my favorite because it does have a very strong, very powerful message. The problem is that strong, powerful message is in the third verse. So if you're only listening to the first 2 minutes of the song, you're not getting the message. And so I'm glad I did Asphalt Assault as kind of a learning experience. I can take that knowledge forward into the next release, thinking when I release this song, I better have some sort of marketing strategy to try to encourage people to listen to that song all the way throughout. Not just send a link and say, here, listen to this, because they're not going to listen to the whole thing if you do that.
You got try and find a way of actually trying to engage people to actually listen to the whole song. Sometimes it can be difficult.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, what was that?
I was saying that it could be like a bit difficult to actually trying to get people to listen to the whole song without some sort of like marketing strategy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of my favorite statistics on YouTube is I actually have one where it shows how much of the video people have watched, but then there's another metric that you can pull up that shows how much people have watched your video compared to other videos. There's one of my videos that was actually surprisingly successful. There's a bass solo on Asphalt Assault near the end called Till the Day I Pass Away. And that song was not designed to be for a radio listening audience for entertainment. It was actually more just like background music for a funeral. And there's no other instruments. It's just a 4-string bass solo. And part of me is thinking, I throw this on there for the fun of it. I really don't think that many people are going to listen to it. Made a YouTube video for it. I was like, I might get a couple of dozen views. It turns out that it's had the second most views of any video that I've put out. And it's the one that I have where the view line is, above average compared to other videos all the way through the entire length of the video. I was like, wow. People like this morbid stuff more than I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that I know some people actually put out videos where they do sort of like either like how to play a bass or how to play guitar or drums or whatever it is, and it's sort of like people like to like, especially if somebody wants to become a musician, they want to watch videos like that so they know where to place the fingers, how to do I mean, that type of thing. So
a lot of the videos I've done are all, like I said, I'm not only a one-man band, I'm also become like a one-man producer, one-man video producer, one-man label. And I'm doing videos with nothing more than the phone on my cell phone camera with a blue screen set up in my kitchen. But at the same time, I wanted to do something that was, I'm releasing videos knowing that, yes, they're not 100% as good as it would be if it was released by a professional company. I do know that. But at the same time, I wanted something that was a little better than some of these other videos that you see. There's like a lot of just plain lyric videos or a lot of these like AI visualizers. I wanted to have something that was a little bit more than that. So I think my videos fall somewhere in between those two.
Yeah. So, where can people find you on social media? Your sort of like your best place to go to. So, for people can find you on, is it your website or somewhere else?
Well, the links to everything are on the website. As far as contacting with me on social media, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and primarily Twitter. I spend most of my time in Twitter. I get kind of lost. I get kind of lost on Facebook. And the other problem I sometimes have on Facebook is I keep getting put in Facebook jail. Like I'll do like 4 posts, and all of a sudden I get this, I'll be putting out a post that's just saying, "Hey, you rock" on somebody else's video. There's no hashtags, there's no tags, and yet I get this message from Facebook saying, "We can't send this out because you're spamming the community." I'm like, how am I spamming a community by making one plain text comment on one person's video?
Yeah,
they do that sometimes. And so yeah, the primary place I'm at is on Twitter. My handle on Twitter is a little different. I'm Crystal Crown PRD on Twitter because the name of my label is Crystal Crown Productions. I've actually made 2 Twitter handles. There's a Crystal Crown Productions and there is an AnnimaX Metal handle there. I think what had happened was one time I accidentally did like a couple thousand posts and realized I was logged onto the wrong one.
Yeah.
And I started to realize how much hassle it would be to be constantly switching back and forth between the two. Because I originally intended Crystal Crown Productions as a label to be my more official business related posts. And then the AnnimaX Metal one was the more friendly, personable, just connecting with fans sort of thing. But it ended up being too much hassle to maintain 2 different accounts. And so the AnnimaX Metal account is largely abandoned. Crystal Crown PRD on Twitter is probably the best place to find me if you just want to chat and find out what's going on.
Yeah, cool. So is it like before we sort of like start wrapping things up? Are you still putting any new videos up on YouTube so people can watch your music videos?
Yeah, they're all on YouTube on my channel, which is luckily enough at youtube.com/@AnnimaX. I did manage to grab the AnnimaX handle, which is very cool. I grabbed that when YouTube very first came out with handles, so I was fortunate on that. All the videos I've made to date are there. I've got some music videos, lyric videos. I've got interviews like this one. I did finally figure out how to share videos that other people create on their YouTube channels and how to share them on my channel as well, which is cool. And I've also done some tutorials. I love doing those because one of the things I've done with the tutorials is that there's a ton of tutorials that other people are already doing on things like theory and technique and things like that. So I wasn't about to try to do that all over again. Instead, what I've done was take some of the like weird tips and tricks on some of the things I've done and how I've incorporated those into AnnimaX songs, thinking people can see what I did and maybe use it as inspiration for some of their other ones. Like that song I mentioned earlier, Till the Day I Pass Away. It's a 4-string bass solo. I had a couple of friends of mine who are actually experienced professional veteran bassists that heard that bass solo, and they were very surprised that the whole thing is done on one 4-string bass. They thought it was like 2 multi-track bass lines. It's like, no, it's all one. And so there's a tutorial that shows some of the tips and tricks, because sometimes you've got these notes that are like this far apart and you got to figure out how to reach them with your hands. So it shows how I did that.
Cool. So this is probably going to be my sort of like last question before we start wrapping things up. Any advice for people who want to become a musician?
Oh boy. I would say the first thing that comes to mind, and I've had the same lesson I've told people for years, and that's that you're getting into the music business. And there's 2 words there: music and business. Make sure you're taking some time to learn the business end of things. Things like, you know.
Oh, we lost him again. Go check out AnnimaX on the website, which is AnnimaX.com for all the links there. And Bandcamp, merch stores, stuff like that. And if you want to talk to Joel, go to Crystal Crown POD, which is on over on Twitter. So if you want to, go check out AnnimaX. Go check out AnnimaX on the socials. And for this channel, check out the link tree at the top of the screen there, the pinned comment, and it's also in the description. You will see the Instagram, Twitter, the website for Project Metal Music, and Lisa Boo's store. So, and AnnimaX is back. So, yeah.
I was hoping I'd break it back, because this is like one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about, and that's like I said, advice for young musicians. Am I upside down? There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's most important advice for young musicians. Again, music and business. Learn the business end of things. I'll be speaking particularly to like the way American law works, because I'm from California. Obviously, this might be different in different countries, but you have to get your songs copyrighted. Do you know how to register a copyright with the Library of Congress? Things like, do you understand the difference between getting registered with a PRO like ASCAP or BMI? Do you understand things like who owns a song? The songwriter share, the publisher share, the performer share, and understanding how the different copyrights and royalties are distributed. You need to spend just as much time studying that stuff as you spend studying scales and arpeggios. So that's the biggest piece of advice I could give to young musicians getting into the music business today.
Yeah, it's that sound advice that, especially when you wanting to release a song, and you think it's like especially if you want to be protected.
Yeah,
About with the song.
That brings up another one. I did do a cover version of Cliff Richard Devil Woman from back in 1976. Big hit there. Which that's another thing you got to look up is, do you know how to get a mechanical license for cover songs? A lot of bands do cover songs. Got to know how to make sure that the royalties are paid properly for those. So that's another good example.
Yeah. And have you got sort of like a tutorial about on YouTube channel about doing stuff like this?
Not yet. Great topic for the next video.
Yeah. Because especially if a young musician or band has just started to wanting to release some music, probably like the best video to actually do is to actually teach them how to use it, or you got to go through this particular step or something similar.
Yeah, and of course I would obviously, very first thing I would say in a video like that is starting it off with a disclaimer: I am not an attorney.
Yeah.
Please don't mistake this for actual legal advice. Consult with your attorney to find that out. But yeah, just the general pointing people in the right direction even would be helpful. So
yeah, of course, yeah. That would be like good to know. Like especially if you think about especially say, if you go to sort of like your local lawyer or local wherever, you can say give them even better advice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, Joel, thank you so much for coming on and doing this little interview. Yeah, oh God, yeah. even with the technical difficulties.
Yeah. Apologies for my internet connection. Sorry.
Yeah, no, don't worry about it. Stuff happens. So, Joel, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a total pleasure having you on and talking to you.
Yeah, well, again, thanks for having me on too. It's an honor and a privilege to be one of your interviews.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, and again, thank you so much. So, guys, all the links to AnnimaX are down in the description there, and yeah, go check them out. Absolutely brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. So yeah. So until next time, guys, we'll catch you all later.
Take care. Rock hard.